reviewed the theme of this conference, and I had a wonderful message, which if anyone would like to talk to me at the morning tea break, I'd be really glad to let you know. But as we were worshiping here on Friday, I just felt a word stand out in a song, and that I needed to bring you this message instead, because last week I nearly died. Now, when I tell my congregation something like that, they normally are expecting it's a kind of a shock value moment, and they're waiting for the punchline to drop. So I nearly died because I drank a coffee from Starbucks. I nearly died because someone dropped a spoiler from Star Wars. Or I nearly died because someone in Australia this week talked to me about the cricket. Just on the cricket, may I be the first to offer my condolences. And who knew that we actually have some cricket to talk about now? And I'll be glad to talk to you about the cricket over the morning tea break as well. But I actually nearly died this week. I'm exaggerating a little. It was actually last week on Thursday. So already nearly dying is so last week. But it feels like it was this morning. It still feels like that. We were at the beach. I've actually got a photo of it there for you. It's a beautiful place to nearly die. Just a place north of Auckland. And the plan was to go snorkeling over to the island. It's quite a short swim. There's not much current. And there were a few of us going over. Some of us with fins, others like me just with a mask and a snorkel. And I was excited to go with my wife. Her parents are with us at the moment. So her parents are able to watch our kids on the beach. Actually, my wife told me later that she was feeling particularly nervous for the kids. A thought had popped into her mind that morning. Is this the day our family has changed forever? Kind of morbid. So she had her parents watching the kids, but they were looking the wrong way. And I love snorkeling. You know, it's a happy place. It's so peaceful for me. But then it started to go wrong. A freak wave sent some water down my snorkel. I wasn't ready. I was too slow to blow it out. And then another. And then my mask was playing up, and I was treading water, and I was getting too tired too quickly, and I was starting to hyperventilate and treading water, losing energy, beginning to panic, breathing in, breathing out, but too fast in a frenzy, and tired beyond words. And I realized I was in trouble. I was in a lot of trouble. I looked over to a friend who actually had fins, and I thought I might be able to, he'd be able to help me. But he was too far. He couldn't even hear me. He was just too far away. I looked to my wife nearby. No fins. I realized that if I looked to her for support, I would drown her. So I told her I was in trouble. And I made a hard decision to swim away from her. By this time, I think I knew that this might be the last time that I would see her. I looked down. It was too deep to go to the bottom. You know, you can sometimes just go down to the bottom for a bit of a rest, a bit of a reset. It's too deep. I wouldn't have made it back. I looked back towards the beach. It's too far to make. What I really wanted, what I really just needed to do was just to breathe. To just breathe. Normally, without panic, without frenzy, to just breathe in and breathe out. To breathe out enough that I could breathe in. Enough. It's got me thinking about how often we find ourselves in these kind of places in the way we do ministry. In life, the exhaustion of treading water, which is really just another way of saying the exhaustion of going nowhere. It's exhausting to go nowhere. It's exhausting. Waves, not of our own making, putting us off balance. Anxiety, shredding the rhythm of our breathing, drowning the people around us. Too far away from help, too far from shore, too far from solid ground. Suddenly, we're on our own and we're in trouble. Now, some of this is down to not managing the tension of breathing in and breathing out. And it's breathing out, I think, where many of our problems start. In fact, it's God's starting point for us, if you think about it. The beginning of it all in Genesis 2, God breathes out. He breathes out, and the first human is animated, transformed from this beautifully fashioned sculpture into a living, breathing human being. And for the first human, his first breath was also a breathing out. It was his first breath in was not his own. It was God who breathes into the nostrils of the man. There's only one way out from there. And so the man, suddenly conscious, begins to move and breathes out. Now, in purely physiological terms, this breathing out is a pretty big deal. It's a huge part of the mechanism of how our human body is animated and how it moves in the direction of our goals and our desires. The byproduct, if you like, of action as our body expels what it has needed to move in the direction of our goals and desires as we breathe out. We were born for this. We were born to breathe out. Born to act. Born to move in the direction of our goals and our desires. God has animated us so that this might be the case. And sometimes it's like we live for the breathing out. I've been reading in Luke chapter 4, particularly from verse 18, where we see Jesus breathing out in the synagogue in Nazareth, his hometown. Now, you'll all know the story. Jesus has been causing quite a stir in the region. He's been packing out the synagogues all over Galilee. And so Luke takes us to one of these events where Jesus has packed out the crowd. One of these events in Nazareth where Jesus has done much of his growing up. And then there are these two kind of competing reputations that Jesus has: the rock star rabbi and the carpenter's kid. Isn't it just this Joseph's kid? Which one is he? And so Jesus walks into the synagogue and he's handed one of the scrolls which contains the writings of the prophet Isaiah, and he unrolls it. And I'm hearing there's complete silence as he does this. And then he begins to breathe out the words of the prophet. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. He breathes out the breadth of what he has been sent to accomplish, the goals and desires which God has for him, the direction in which he wants him to act. This is the launch event for Jesus' public ministry in many ways. And he lays out who he's been sent to. And it's good news. It's good news to the poor, people who have lost honor, people who live from a place of shame, people beyond grace, people beyond the boundaries of a respectable life with God, whatever the social boundaries that poverty creates, whether we create them ourselves or whether we create them for others. He's offering recovery of sight to the blind, physical recovery of sight, but also this need to see truly and clearly, this need for revelation, a need to see what is real about God and us. He's proclaiming freedom and forgiveness of sin and restoration of people to community, spiritual and social freedom as well as justice, but also a release from debt and obligation, exile and captivity. All of these things are coming to an end. God breathes out and joins humanity up really close and personal. And we are there too, with our shame and our dishonor and our blindness and our sin and our exile. Along with the people we know and love, and plenty we don't know or love. And what follows this mic drop moment in Nazareth is this frenzied period of activity, which looks rather like a lot of your diaries, which begins with a different kind of drop as the crowd tries to throw Jesus off a cliff for describing his mission in scandalously inclusive terms, a trip to Capernaum, another teaching gig in the synagogue there, which goes a bit better until a demon-possessed heckler tries to sabotage the message. I hate that when it happens to me. Healing Simon's mother-in-law, which even Simon seems glad about. So much breathing out. But here's the thing. Even Jesus can't breathe out without breathing in. Even Jesus can't pull off a trick like that. And so in verse 42, we read, "At daybreak, Jesus went to a solitary place." Now, the implication is not simply that Jesus went to be by himself, but that he went to be with God. Although I guess you could say that in being by himself, he was with God, but it's... For Jesus, the frenzy of breathing out, of being sent, was being mirrored in this moment of breathing in, of being with the Father, with his good Father. You see, this is something I think we have to grasp. Mission happens to us, not just through us. God's mission is for us, not just for everybody else. We in this room were created for relationship with God. The intimacy of what was lost in the Garden of Eden is what God longs to restore to each one of us. It's why we see Jesus, who was fully human and fully God. It's why we see him live this way. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. He lives out his humanity in the fullest way possible. And it depends on this connection to God. And so often we live as if all that's required is breathing out. As if all that we need to do is breathe out to others. As if the mission is for others, but not for us. As if people might follow Jesus more if we just worked harder and smarter and better. What if we also showed people what it looks like to breathe in? We're breathing out. We're being sent by Jesus. But we're breathing in. We're being with Jesus. And they happen together. There is never a time where breathing in and is not followed by breathing out. You'll suffocate just as easily by not breathing out as you will by not breathing in. And there is never a time where mission is not accompanied by the presence of God, nor a time where the presence of God is not a part of His mission. And I think we need to be really clear about some of our motivations and expectations. And I preach it myself when I say these things. It's not a sacrifice contest. It's not a sacrifice contest. I believe, and I'm sure many of you do too, that sacrifice is at the heart of God's call to us. But sacrifice will not earn us anything with God that He has not already given us. But nor is the goal self-care or boundaries or even balance, as much as these may be tools for the journey. Maybe someone has a word this conference for those in ministry who are over concerned with self-care. Too much breathing in and not enough breathing out. You'll drown just as quickly with that diet. But this morning, I believe, is for those who find themselves in a different place where breathing in is not happening. You're on your own. And you're in trouble. Treading water is not going to get you there. The frenzy of going nowhere will kill you. And you risk taking people down with you. You're too deep. You're too far from shore. Too far from help. It only ends one way. Unless you do something. Or you could do what I did. You could do nothing. You could let go. You could stop. You could stop the frenzy and the struggling and the striving. I let go. And I trusted the water to hold me. And breathed. Breathed in. Breathed out. Slowly. Calmly. Without panic or frenzy or anxiety. Just breathed in. And breathed out. And I waited. And strength returned. I slowly began to move, not fighting the current, but working with the waves to find my way back. I remembered a rock formation about halfway that was just, it maybe was going to be high enough out of the water that I could stand on it. It turned out I could. There was a place I could stand where there was deep water all around me. But a solid place I could stand, breathe in and breathe out. And I have never felt so alive in that moment. Are you drowning today? Are you in trouble? Are you on your own? There's some things that maybe God might lay on your heart to do about it. You might decide that it's the right time to just stop. Just stop. Let go. Stop trying to be everything. Whatever that means for you. Learn to breathe again. To be with Jesus. To be with him. Maybe for some of you, you need to confront the reality that you may be taking others down with you. Maybe it starts with not caring for yourself, but realizing that there are others that are at risk. Maybe that's what it will take to grab your attention. Don't take others down. Now, there are people that are drowning in your frenzy. Maybe you need to find a friend. I'd allowed my supports to get too far from me. I didn't mean it to happen. It just happened. Have you allowed yourself to become isolated? It's dangerous to live alone. It's not just preferable that we live with others. It's dangerous. It's risky to do it on your own. We were designed for the kind of community that knows us, that loves us in spite of knowing us, that offers us the awkwardness of accountability. That's love. John Townsend calls these relational nutrients. You and I are relational nutrients to each other. We need one another in that same way that we need food. So whether it's a mentor or a coach or a supervisor or a counselor, who do you need out there with you who's got fins, who's got something to support you? Because right now you're on your own and you're in trouble. Maybe it's solid ground for you. Are you so deep that there is nothing solid, that even those things that you have found to be solid ground for you are not? There may be for you even the scriptures are a part of your frenzy. Maybe you need to stop reading the Bible and let it read you. Pastors are the worst people for reading the Bible devotionally. We're always reading it with an angle. Let it read you. Maybe for some of us it's about returning to shore. We've just gone way out, way too far. Way too far. If you are a person that's finding that there are addictions and temptations and ways of managing your pain because you're not being with Jesus, you're too busy, you're working too hard for him to be with him. Whether it's food or fornication, whether it's PlayStation or pornography, it all amounts to the same thing. Medicating our pain and our isolation. Start swimming the other way. Start working with the currents and the waves that God has put in our lives, the ways that God has made us and shaped us. Get help if you need it. But remember this, no one ever quenched their thirst by drinking salt water. It doesn't work. Would you stand with me as we bring our time to an end? I just want to pray together. I invite you just to put your hands out in front of you in an act of receiving. And just whatever it might mean for you physically, in this moment, what might it mean for you physically to let go? If your hands are clenched, maybe you're opening your hands. If your shoulders are tense and tight, maybe you're just relaxing. Maybe your eyes need to close and your head needs to come up. Whatever it means for you to relax, to rest, to stop, to let go. And just breathe. Breathe in. breathe out. And in this moment, what is it that God might say to you? I think I was a minute away from drowning. I had one pathway open to me. What's the one thing that God wants you to hear this morning? Spirit of God, breathe afresh into us. We long to be filled by you. Bring your healing and your truth and your mercy and your comfort, your conviction, your grace. As we breathe you in, that we might breathe out your mission to others. We ask it in the name of Jesus, who came to be with us. Amen.